Hey y'all, Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates. And in this video, we are going to review a recent Seattle Times article titled Prosperity Bomb 2.0, Bellevue passes Manhattan in housing prices. I have to admit, when I saw this article a few days ago, I decided we're making a video about this. And even though I haven't made as many of these real estate news review videos lately, I thought it was worth going through this video here, talking about some of the topics and really just giving some of my opinion about it. I think it's interesting. I never really imagined seeing Bellevue as such a big city. It really is growing a lot and has been growing a lot. I think Amazon's moving over there, or at least moving a lot of employees over there. Had a lot of clients looking over in Bellevue and on the east side that were originally really wanting to be in Seattle because that's where Amazon was and that's where their office was. And now they're thinking a little bit more ahead. Like, I know I have to be over here soon, or will be able to need to be over here. So starting to consider that. I also think I remember going to the Bellevue Mall as a kid, and there really wasn't that much to do in Bellevue. It wasn't what it is now. It was just starting to be built. So it's interesting to see this and to think, man, Bellevue's one of the most expensive places to live at this point. And I think this article does a good job of highlighting that. So let's take a look. For years, Seattle has been in a high state of angst or yearning in some cases about the prospect that our fishing village was morphing into the new Manhattan. I love how this starts out. This is great. We had it all wrong. It turns out once sleepy Bellevue was sprinting there first. You've probably been rubbernecking, as I have, and I have too, at these insane stories about bidding wars from the east side real estate. This week, a Seattle Times colleague, and I saw this article as well, I'll link it up down below in the description. This Seattle Times colleague noted one house in Bellevue got 14 bids and sold for $1 million more than the asking price. Crazy, crazy. Now, I know a few of the people that were quoted in that article. And by the way, Seattle Times, if you ever want to quote me in an article, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to provide some insights or share stories, just a little shameless plug. I think that the east side is super, super competitive, and we'll continue to talk about that in this article. But the fact that a house could sell $1 million over asking price, I think seems ridiculous. But given how high the price was to start with, doesn't seem as ridiculous because a lot of the $1 million houses are selling for 35, 40% over asking price right now on the east side. And so to see that same percentage mapped on top of the sales price over there, I guess it doesn't really surprise me, but it does make for a really great headline. Bellevue prices shot up a ridiculous 28% year over year, reaching a median price of $1.37 million for all sales of homes and condos in December, according to real estate tracker Redfin. That's nearly double that of Seattle. And I'll say this, as we're talking about the median sales price for a single family home in Bellevue in December, according to the Northwest Multiple Listing Stats, was $1.65 million. So quite a bit more. And it is double that of Seattle. So you're literally paying twice as much to buy a house in Bellevue than you are in Seattle, which is mind-blowing. It used to be the other way around. It used to be a lot more expensive to buy in Seattle, and then it was probably more comparable. And the east side's slowly been getting more and more expensive here over the past few years. So it's been more expensive to buy in Bellevue for a little while, but it's jumped considerably here over the last few years, whereas Seattle hardly increased at all. So median sales price in Seattle last year jumped a little over 4%, whereas we're talking about almost 29% in Bellevue. Now we're jumping into the meat of this article. All this frothiness has led to a watershed moment. Tech-fueled Bellevue has now passed the borough of Manhattan in housing prices. Redfin reports that Manhattan's median sales price is depressed a bit from pre-pandemic highs and is now $100,000 less than Bellevue at $1.25 million. It's incredible, especially if you're old enough to remember, as I am, and I am as well, the days when Bellevue's largest employer was a mall. And I mentioned going to the Bellevue Mall a lot as a kid, and really that was like the highlight of going to Bellevue, at least from what I remember. It's all grown up now and going bonkers. Of cities with more than 100,000 in population, Bellevue, whose population is about 152,000, is now more expensive than all of them except for, or save for, San Francisco and a bunch of Silicon Valley tech towns like Sunnyvale, San Mateo, Santa Clara, so on. So pretty much San Jose area. It wouldn't be shocking if Bellevue passes San Francisco this spring, as prices down there have been floating around 1.5 million for a few years. I have to admit, as I read this article, I do have that same feeling. I think a lot of people that have grown up here have, or have lived in Seattle, Bellevue for a long time. I think there's a difficulty grasping the idea that we live in one of the more affluent, more expensive places in the whole country. Because as the article starts off, really was a fishing village. Seattle was not a place where, and I don't even think Seattle ever intended to be a large behemoth. If we start to think about industry, and or at least from a financial standpoint, I don't think Seattle ever meant to be what it's starting to become. And so it does just, I think, blow people's minds, and it's hard to grasp because that's not what Seattle used to be. And that's not what Bellevue used to be, but it's continuing to become more and more like that. The author wraps up by sharing a few eye-popping stats, things like a $20,000 plus per month apartment rental, or a $2.4 million fixer-upper, or a $2,500 one-bedroom apartment average rent. Those are crazy things. And then goes back to a term that they coined a few years back about this idea of a prosperity bomb, talking about how, at the beginning, prosperity is great for a city and you have people moving there, but then it starts to put strains on infrastructure. And I thought it was interesting kind of how the author wraps this up. They say the first part, the prosperity, is amazing for a city. Jobs are plentiful and lucrative. The restaurants are fantastic. The spillover into arts giving and philanthropy alluring. If you are fortunate enough to already own a home, the wealth blast makes you rich. Asset rich anyway, right? Not until you sell. But if you are younger or just moved here, say, or you're a new teacher or on a fixed income, you are at risk of being financially blown right out of town, which I'm seeing a lot, which is really sad. And I mean that. It's hard. I have a lot of friends and people that I know that are relocating because the jobs they have don't pay for the lifestyle they want to have. And so they're looking elsewhere. Given that only about 350 condos sell every year in downtown Bellevue, only a small fraction of the 25,000 new Amazon office workers would need to purchase a condo in order to have a substantial effect on the market. That's crazy to think about, but it's true. So I think what we see, and it does, there's this positive benefit, and then there's the other unintended impacts and effects that are on people and other types of jobs. And I don't have an answer or pretend to have an answer. I think Seattle did spend a lot of effort trying to build and has done a good job, I think, of adding a lot of different zoning and allowing for different types of homes in different neighborhoods to allow for a little bit more mixed affordability in the different neighborhoods. And there was an article about that not too long ago about how Seattle was one of the best mixed income cities. But I think as far as looking at some of the things that happen as a result of prosperity in an area, it does push out some people. And Seattle has had its issues managing all of this. And I think Bellevue, as the author points out, has done a pretty good job so far. But at the same time, I think at some point you start to put pressure and stress on things and you start to see where the deficiencies are. So just like the author is rooting for Bellevue, I'm rooting for Bellevue. I think the spillover from Bellevue to Seattle is going to continue. I think previously it might have been from Seattle spilling over to Bellevue. And I think now we're seeing a lot more prosperity on the east side of Lake Washington, as I've been talking about in some of my market updates. And Seattle is at this point not growing quite at the rate that it was. So as far as home ownership goes, it is considerably more affordable to live in Seattle. And I think if you're thinking about buying and you weigh those costs and those benefits, it is nice to be close to work, but it's also nice to literally pay half the amount for your house. So I think there's a tension there for housing and how close you live to where you work and what's important to you in life. And I think for a lot of people, it's nice for the convenience to be close to work. So I think Bellevue is going to continue to get more and more expensive, and the whole east side as a result, because the way it's built, it's all situated. If we're looking at a map on Google Maps, it's pretty it's pretty interesting and it's tough to navigate all the different waters. So you have to go over a couple bridges or drive around Lake Washington, and those can get backed up. There's accidents. So it is very inconvenient at times to be on the other side of the lake from where you're trying to get. So I think we will continue to see prices shoot up on the east side for now. And I think there will be a spillover back to Seattle again too. So if you're somebody who's like, I don't mind a little extra commuting time, and I don't mind that, you might enjoy living over in Seattle versus over in Bellevue or on the east side. Thanks so much for watching this Seattle real estate news breakdown as we look at what's going on in Bellevue and the housing prices jumping and now passing Manhattan. Crazy to think about. If you want to see more videos like this or want to see more of my thoughts about the Seattle Bellevue real estate market, or even county-wide, King County, Snohomish County, I'd love it if you would subscribe to my channel so that you can hear from me on a regular basis. And of course, if you ever want to talk about buying or selling real estate in the area, I'd love to be a resource for you.